The morning after losing someone you love, the world feels like it has become an entirely different place. You wake up, and for just one brief moment, there is silence. A quiet where nothing has come back to you yet. But then it does. Oh, they're gone. You start to make breakfast, and your hand stops mid-reach. You always made enough for two. You think about turning on the TV, then decide against it. If there's no one beside you to laugh with, what's the point of laughing? Even years later, grief finds you in the smallest things. A song they loved playing from somewhere, cherry blossoms opening, turning around to say, "Hey, listen to this," and finding no one there. Every time someone tells you to move on already, something inside you quietly closes off. What does moving on even mean? Does it mean forgetting them? It doesn't feel like that's right, but you can't quite find the words to explain why. Today I want to share a story with you, one that is 2,500 years old, for anyone carrying that kind of weight in their heart. In that story, a mother came to the Buddha cradling her dead child, begging him to bring the boy back to life. The Buddha didn't refuse her. Instead, he gave her a task. Go through the village and bring me a mustard seed from any household that has never known loss. She walked from door to door, and in each home she found grief waiting. A daughter taken by fever, a husband lost to war, an old man who had buried 3 children. By the time she returned to the Buddha empty-handed, she understood something that no words could have taught her. Grief, she realized, was not her punishment. It was her connection to every human heart that had ever loved. This happened during the time when the Buddha was still alive. In a small village in India, there lived a young woman, a mother with 1 son. He had wide, bright eyes and a laugh that filled the room. Every morning he would call out, "See you later, Mama," and sprint off down the road. Watching his back as he disappeared, that was her greatest joy. Then one summer morning, he developed a fever. At first she thought it was just a mild cold, but the fever never broke. A few days later, her boy was gone. She held his body and could not move from that spot. She couldn't even cry. She just held him. She could feel him growing cold, and still she could not let go. Neighbors came and gently told her it was time for the burial rites. She shook her head. "He is still alive," she insisted. "If I find the right medicine, he will recover." And so she wandered through the village, clutching her son, knocking on door after door, begging for a cure. The villagers didn't know what to do. Finally, someone said, "Go to the Buddha. Perhaps he can help." With nothing left to lose, she carried her son in her arms and came before the Buddha. "Please," she said, "bring him back. You can do it. I know you can." The hands that held her son out were trembling. The Buddha looked at her for a long moment. He did not scold her. He did not lecture her. He simply looked at her, quietly, steadily. Then he said, "I will prepare that medicine for you, but first I have one small request. Go back to the village and bring me a single white mustard seed from a household that has never known death. With that, I can help your child." Her eyes lit up. "I'll find it. I will." She gently laid her son down and ran back toward the village. She knocked on the first door. "Please, may I have a mustard seed? And tell me, has anyone in this home ever died?" The man paused, then answered quietly, "My father passed away last year." At the next house, "My husband 3 years ago." The next, "A child." "My mother." "My grandfather." She went to every house in the village. Not one home had been untouched by death. As the sun sank low, she sat down beneath a tree at the edge of the village, and there, for the first time, she wept. She cried out loud for a long, long time. The next morning, she returned to the Buddha. She had no mustard seed. "Did you find one?" the Buddha asked gently. She shook her head. "Everywhere I went, someone had been lost. Every single home." The Buddha nodded. And then he said, "You have lost your only child and you grieve, but death comes to every living thing. That is the nature of this world. Your sorrow is real, and you are not alone in it." This story has been passed down for centuries, but today I want to sit with what comes after it. What the Buddha wanted this grieving mother to understand was not, death is natural, so you shouldn't be sad. In Buddhist teaching there is a word, impermanence. It means that all things are always changing. Flowers fall, seasons turn, people too will one day leave. This is true for everyone. But impermanence was never meant to say that sadness is a mistake. What I believe the Buddha was truly offering her was this: your grief is right. She cried for her son because she had loved him. The depth of her sorrow was the measure of her love. To grieve is to have truly lived alongside someone. Grief, this thing we sometimes call by its English name, grief, is something that arises in every human heart that has ever loved. It is not evidence that something is broken in you. It is not weakness. But when we lock ourselves inside the grief and cannot find the door out, that is when the suffering becomes unbearable. Like a mother wandering the village with her son in her arms, unable to put him down. The Buddha gently opened a door for her, not by taking away her pain, but by saying, you can cry, and you are not alone. By walking from house to house and meeting others who had lost someone dear, she found a place where her tears were allowed, a place where she was understood. Grief does not need to disappear, it only needs to not be carried alone. That, I believe, is what was quietly held inside the Buddha's words. We live in a culture that is very hard on grief. Don't dwell on it. Look forward. They would want you to be happy. These words rain down on us, usually from people who mean well. And of course, the impulse to encourage is understandable. But for someone in the middle of grief, those words can feel impossibly heavy. I need to stop crying. If I can't move on, something must be wrong with me. Layer by layer, guilt settles on top of sorrow. Pause. Modern psychology tells us that deep grief moves in stages. First, often, a kind of numbness, feeling nothing at all. Then sometimes anger, the need to blame something, someone. Waves of regret. If only I'd taken them to the doctor sooner. If only I'd been there. And many people come to feel ashamed that their grief hasn't lifted. They start to wonder if they're broken. But they aren't. You aren't. Just as that grieving mother carried her son through the village, unable to set him down, we all hold on for a while. That is one of the most human things there is. So how do we begin, slowly, to take steps again? One way is to speak it to someone. Just as she discovered by going door to door, the people around you have known this pain too. Grief support groups, communities of people with shared loss, they exist in more places now than ever. You don't have to resolve anything. You don't have to find answers. Simply feeling, I'm not the only one, can give your heart just enough room to breathe. Another way is to let your connection with the person you lost take a new form, but continue. Even after someone is gone, they go on living inside you, asking yourself what would they say about this, visiting a place they loved, cooking a meal they would have enjoyed. That isn't holding on too tight. That is an ongoing relationship, a love that hasn't ended, only changed shape. In Buddhist thought, those who have passed continue to dwell in the hearts of those who remain. When you cry for them, when you think of them, they are there. They have not vanished. Grief is love that has changed its form. So it is all right to grieve, and may that grief, little by little, become something that helps you live. To move toward that, there is really only one thing needed: to breathe your way through today. If I were to put today's entire message into a single sentence, it would be this: you don't have to hurry your grief to its end. If you have loved someone deeply, and you are weeping because they are gone, that is proof your heart is alive, proof that you loved. Just as that mother went from house to house through her village, you too, without knowing it, may be sharing your grief right now with someone who understands. Your grief does not need to disappear. It will simply, slowly shift inside you in its own time. Please don't rush it. Let it change when it is ready. Thank you for being here with me today, all the way to the end. The fact that you are here in this moment, listening, that means something to me. I hope that tonight you find just a little rest, a little peace, a little sleep. And if sleep does not come easily, that too is all right. Sit with your restlessness, as you would sit with a friend who cannot find words. In the morning the light will return, as it always does. Your grief will still be there, but so will you, still breathing, still here.